Instead of showing you 20 or so free plugins, many of which you might not use, let's focus on 4 incredible ones. These plugins cover a wide array of applications, timbres for certain genres, and the ability to solve some of the most common problems in a mix. So, here are the top 4 free vocal compressors and why they're worth your time. So starting off, we have Compressor version 4 by Tone Boosters. So this plugin isn't exactly free. The developers offer an unrestricted demo with the exception of saving new presets. That said, it's sold for about $30, which is a great price if you want to support the developer. At first glance, the compressor seems similar to the FabFilter Pro C2, with distinct algorithms, look-ahead function, and automatic makeup gain, but there's a lot more going on here. For example, if 250 Hz is causing a problem with the vocal, I could go to the zone section, enable the filters, and isolate the range that I want to compress. Unlike sidechaining, which only causes the compressor to be triggered by certain frequencies, Zones acts like a stripped-down multiband compressor. Or, say instead of controlling the vocal from the peaks down, I want to boost everything below -30 dB by 5 dB. First, I'd enable upward compression, adjust the threshold to -30 dB, and ensure the range only allows for 5 dB of amplification. Then I could vary the knee, the ratio, attack, and release until I achieve the sound I want. Alternatively, I could adjust the amount and the makeup to achieve something similar. Now, there's a lot more going on with this compressor that I find incredibly interesting, so I'm going to do a full video on it later in the week, but for now, let's listen to a vocal being compressed in the context of an instrumental. I'll use both peak down and upward compression, and notice how the compressor gives us a couple options for controlling dynamics.
I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code. I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code.
Next up, let's check out LA by Analog Obsession. So the LA2A is a fantastic compressor for vocals, and this free emulation by Analog Obsession is no different. Similar to the unit, there's a preset threshold, attack and release time, with program-dependent variables included. Let's look behind the scenes and get a better idea of what makes it so useful. So, by default, and even without attenuation, the compressor is adding some very flattering harmonics. Second, third, and fourth order harmonics are all present, with the odd or third harmonics slightly lower in amplitude. So say the fundamental frequency of the vocal triggers this saturation, we'd have 2 perfect octaves above it being amplified, resulting in a really musical sound. Meanwhile, the third order harmonic adds some musical complexity, and it fills the sound. Now, once gain reduction is introduced, the harmonics become more aggressive, with asymmetrical wave shaping causing a complex formation of odd and even harmonics. Additionally, the internal sidechain could be used to shape the harmonics, emphasizing or de-emphasizing certain frequency ranges. Now, just as importantly, the compression itself is incredibly smooth. What appears to be a 4:1 ratio with a softer knee will gradually control the vocal. Now, subtle nonlinearities post-threshold add a little complexity. Meanwhile, the longer release will likely cause any transient that's after the vocal's initial transient to be compressed. Lastly, the compressor introduces a high-pass filter up to about 20 Hz, and it includes a small 0.6 dB boost to 14 kHz, which will add some very subtle air to the vocal. So, let's listen to the compressor on a vocal, again in the context of a mix. Notice how the vocal's first transient will cut through, but every subsequent transient is smoothed due to the long release time.
I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code. I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code.
Real quick, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, we have a mixing membership called the Sage Audio Membership, where you get access to Sage Audio University for in-depth mixing and mastering courses, private one-on-one mentorship, and unlimited personalized mixing feedback. Go to sageaudio.com or use the link in the description. For the third plugin, let's cover OTT by X4 Records. So OTT kind of gets a bad rap for being too aggressive, but if used with subtle settings, it offers a lot of flexibility regarding dynamics, the ADSR, the frequency response, and the harmonic content. So it's a surprisingly complex plugin. Now, the depth function is the wet-dry, and unlike most plugins, it's absolutely needed to achieve a reasonable sound. As I increase the depth, notice how the frequency response changes. OTT is acting like a tone shaper, causing the lows, the mids, and the highs to be smoothly but aggressively amplified. Meanwhile, signal that falls below the threshold is amplified, while signal above the threshold is attenuated. meaning the plugin achieves both upward and downward compression. So, say I move the higher band slider to the right, in turn increasing the threshold. I'll cause more upward compression than downward, causing quieter details in the highs to be amplified, which, as you'll notice, amplifies that entire range. Now conversely, lowering the threshold will reduce the amplitude, causing the respective frequency range to be lowered. Now this could be counteracted or just generally changed with the 3 frequency dials to the right of the bars. When it comes to dynamics, this plugin is more of a multiband limiter than a multiband compressor. The low and the mids have ratios of 1 to 66, while the high band is a brick wall limiter. Now since the plugin is constantly working, either in a downward or upward way, any change made is significant. Now, as you'd imagine, the distortion is pretty aggressive as well, with longer times resulting in lower distortion. For vocals, this plugin offers a quick way to increase detail, control peaks, and add some audible harmonics. But remember to use lower depth values, otherwise the vocal will be completely changed.
I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code. I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code.
Last up, let's cover Compressor by Kilohertz, version 1.8.5. So, I picked this compressor for a very different reason than the others. Whereas each of the previous plugins offer a clean to moderately distorted sound, this plugin is kind of a mess. Now, what makes this compressor so distinct seems to have been patched out with recent updates, so to use the one that I'm talking about, try version 1.8.5 or earlier. Now, the RMS and the peak options of the compressor are useful, and they make the compressor more or less just like any other one, but what's been removed from the newer version is this fast option. When combined with a 0 millisecond attack and a 1 millisecond release, the vocal distorts in a one-of-a-kind way. The effect is almost lo-fi due to how much it compresses and the significance of the harmonics and aliasing that it introduces, something that most plugins, even lo-fi plugins, try to keep to a minimum. The makeup gain dial brings unpleasant breaths and noise forward while adding to this kind of confusing smashed sound. Now, I know it's kind of weird for me to recommend that you use a plugin with settings that sound distinctly bad, but as a creative effect, I can't think of another plugin that creates this type of sound. So let's listen to it on vocals, and let me know if you're hearing that same really unique sound that these settings cause.
I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code. I keep with the flow, like gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. Hardly see me bold, no, I stick to the code.
As I mentioned earlier, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, we have a mixing membership called the Sage Audio Membership, where you get access to Sage Audio University for in-depth mixing and mastering courses, private one-on-one mentorship, and unlimited personalized mixing feedback. Go to sageaudio.com or use the link in the description.